Okay, thank you for joining us today at JALT International 2021. Please welcome Professor Emily MacFarlane, who will be presenting on using technology for interactive read alouds. Professor, you may begin.
Great. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Thank you for persevering through all the technological problems the site has been having today. I really appreciate you being here. I was not sure I might be able to get here myself as well because of all the problems, but I'm glad we're all here. I'm just gonna share my screen in a second if you'll just bear with me. Okay. And okay, can everyone see this screen? If you want to put a reaction or something, I can see. Yeah, it's all good. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about using technology, particularly for read alouds and ways that you can use technology to try and keep read alouds be as interactive as we like them to be. I don't think I'm going to have many revolutionary ideas or anything that are particularly exciting, but hopefully, even if you've heard of a lot of the things I'm talking about before, that you'll take away one or two new ideas or websites or apps that are new for you. So first, just to introduce myself. My name is Emily MacFarlane. I'm originally from Scotland, but I've been living in Sendai, Japan for over 10 years, and I teach specifically at elementary school, public elementary school. And I have a bit of an addiction to picture books, and I really like reading picture books with my kids. So this is a lot of what I'm focusing on and what I've been doing research on and things. During the school closures for COVID, I focused a lot on different ways to use technology to continue sharing read alouds with the students that were at home. And even after they came back to the classroom, social distancing and COVID restrictions has meant that I've had to find ways to continue to share picture books in a way that's still interactive. And so I've used technology for a lot of that. So hopefully that can also be helpful for others. Just a little bit about interactive read alouds. So interactive read alouds or scaffolding interactive style or dialogic reading, as it's sometimes called, is just reading in a way that's a dialogue between the teacher and the students, and it's considered better for the students because it's much more real, it gets them much more involved, and it's seem to be greater for vocabulary gains and enjoyment as well. It's sometimes said that most of the enjoyment from the read aloud actually comes from the interaction, so that's why we want interactive read alouds. But how can we keep interactive read alouds in this kind of COVID-19 pandemic state? So today I'm going to talk about 8 different ways that you can use technology. First is having a big screen. Next is different ways you can use it during post-reading activities. Digital text, pre-made lessons, read aloud websites, YouTube, video conferencing such as Zoom or Google Meet, and creating your own resources. So I'll try and get through all of these. I'll try and speak fast because we only have 25 minutes. So hopefully we have time for questions, but if not, I've got my email at the end, and I've also put all the links in a PDF on the Edzilla website. So you shouldn't have to screenshot or try and write down any links or anything during this. There's a PDF on the Edzilla page for this talk, so you should be able to find it there. So first, the biggest thing I found when coming back into the classroom trying to do read alouds was the social distancing made it really, really difficult for the kids to see the picture books properly. I have maximum 40 kids in one classroom, so having them social distance and being able to see a normal size picture book is really difficult. If you've got a big book, it's a little different, but so I know some people make PowerPoints. That's a little dicey with copyright, but what I like to do is I like to use a document camera. A lot of schools don't have a document camera, but even so, you can get like a little bendy stand from 100 yen shop, or somewhere really cheap, and just use your phone as link that up to the TV as a document camera, and it really makes it so that all the kids can actually see what's going on, because the worst thing when you're trying to do a read aloud is the kid at the back can't see. So that's my number one tip for in the classroom, is trying to make sure everyone can see document camera. 100% recommend it. So with post-reading activities, there's a couple of different ways I like to involve technology in that. The first one is through using a kind of exit ticket, whether it's for reflection or feedback. This can be whatever like school website that you use. We use Google Forms, but I know there's lots of different other platforms. But the good thing about this is that it collates the data for you. So if you ask a question such as, did you enjoy today's book? Then it will gather all the responses and tell you like 75% of kids found it enjoyable, 25% of kids didn't, kind of things like that. So I find that much better than the paper copies, because I don't have to count up all the answers. So that's one way. Another one, which I think most people are probably aware of, is recording a response through Flipgrid. I think Flipgrid's been really popular during the pandemic, taking short videos that you upload to a platform that their classmates can see and respond to. I know in the plenary this morning, Yuko Butler talked about feedback being really motivational for kids. So for kids, if you set a question about what you thought happened next after the book ended, or what was your favorite character, and had them take a little video, and then their classmates can respond to that, that's all really, really motivating for them to want to talk more. Another different app that you can use to record a response that I quite like is called Tatterpix Kids. This is one where you either take one of the pictures that's already on the app, or you can take a picture yourself, draw a little mouth on it, and then record yourself speaking, and it will talk with you. I'll just show you one I made earlier. It's just a very quick test, but this is what a result would look like.
Hello. Test, test, test. Look, it's cute. See you.
So that's something that you can do, especially if your kids don't want to show their face, or you don't want to share that kind of thing. They can take a picture and speak that way, and they find it really fun. This doesn't even have to just be for read alouds, but for anything. But this, I found kids really like getting involved with that. Sorry. And another way you can do is have them drawing a response. I personally prefer them to draw on normal paper, because then they can take it home and show their parents if they're doing it at school. But say if they're at home and they're sending it to you as homework or something, it's much easier to send it digitally. So that's the time where you could have them take a picture of a normal drawing, but some of them like playing with apps, so here's just a couple of options that you can use. Drawing with Carl is one that's the most recommended for kids for drawing. However, that is paid. I think when I looked, it was about 250 yen. So I don't really recommend it if you want something that's free. The one that I like is called Tayatsui Sketches. So this is a sketch that I drew earlier on it. I'm a very, very, very high class artist here. But this is just an example of something that you can do. Have the kids draw a new character for the book, or draw their favorite character or something like that. Just a fun way to use apps like that. Okay, so the next thing is digital text. I really, really like using digital text, which is, if people don't know, it's where you have the picture book, but it has the words, and a voice will read along for you, like a CD-ROM, they'll have that. A lot of these online, the websites where you can find them, they're pay-per-view, and they're really quite expensive. So unless you want to fork out a lot of money, they're not that great. There's just two resources that I do want to mention. One, if you happen to work at public school in Japan, just because I think it's important to mention, the Hi Friends storybooks have the digital text for the stories that come at the end of Let's Try 1 and Let's Try 2. The amount of teachers that I've worked with that don't realize that this CD, that ROM that we got sent to us years ago, actually is an important thing that we need to have now, is mind-blowing to me. So just in case you work at public school in Japan, if you don't use this CD-ROM, you need to look for it because your school has it, and it's great. It has much longer version than it's in the textbook. And these are really good. The one free digital text site that I did find that I love is Book Trust. Book Trust is a UK website. They don't have that many picture books on there, but the ones that they do have are really nice. So, for example, Oh No George is a book that I read with my kids anyway before I even found this. And they have about, I think, 10 or 11 in total, so it's not loads, but they have versions with songs. I read this first as read along with singing, but it's read along with signing. So because it's a British website, I think it's British Sign Language. But that's another extra thing that's in there. And they have prompts for each page for questions that you can ask the kids. So even if you don't want to use this, I think it's a good idea to look at it just to think about different prompts that you could use when reading books. So that's the one that I do recommend just because it's free. And it has some really good books on there. So if you're looking for pre-made lessons online, in my opinion, there's only one place that you need to look. That's Papelt. They have a huge amount of mini e-lessons online, which has pre-reading questions. It has questions about the cover. It has links to the YouTube videos of the authors reading the books, and then it has questions for when they're watching the video, and then it has tasks for afterwards. They're really, 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 really good. So they have, I think, 23 or even more than that, I can't quite remember, e-lessons online, and they're really, really thorough with their checking of making sure they have really good quality read alouds on there and lots of great questions. So I really recommend this website. The only problem I had with it was that it's all in English and my students can't read English. So I actually collaborated with them last year with their permission and translated all their e-lessons, well, the majority of them, into Japanese. And made a website with that. Even then, it was a little bit too difficult for my students. So what we did was we made worksheets and made all the questions multiple choice, because all the questions that they have are mostly open questions, and it was very difficult. I think most people know Japanese students have a difficult time with open-ended questions. They're much better with closed-ended questions or multiple choice. So we did that. So if you fancy taking a look at that, I really recommend Papelt's mini e-lessons. Even if you don't use the materials, it's really nice to look at to get an idea of what questions you can ask about a cover, or what questions you can ask, or what after reading activities you can do to do art or to link to other subjects. So apart from the e-lessons, there's also a lot of websites that just have read alouds on them, and a lot of these also have reading guides for teachers and things as well. Questions you can ask. They're not as thorough as the Papelt ones, but I'm just going to mention a couple. I think the most famous one is Storyline Online. Storyline Online. It's a bit of a mouthful there. This has a lot of famous American actors and politicians and people reading children's books. They have a lot of information about the grade level, but I think you have to bear in mind this is aimed at native speaking children, so often the level can be quite difficult for Japanese learners, but they do have a lot of activity guides and things online, and there's so many books on there. I really recommend at least taking a look at it. Another one that's really good is from the Indianapolis Public Library, Storyline Online Storytime. They have a blog which has tons and tons of different blog posts, but a lot of them are, 100 read alouds online or 100 more read alouds online. There's loads and loads and loads of things on there. So that's really worth a look as well if you're looking for ideas or, books that you just don't have access to here. Or just something different in the classroom. I know for me, I wear a mask in the classroom, so it's really difficult for students to see my expressions. So sometimes just having someone reading it on a screen is more interesting for the students. If you're going to look at using one of these videos, I really recommend a webinar from the British Council, from two of the co-creators of the JALT. They talk a lot about choosing specific videos and what to look for. So, you know, how is the person reading? Are they reading it, you know, like this? Is it this kind of read aloud, which is very difficult because it's just a listening? Or, you know, do they have the book open? Can you see what it is? Is it like a bird's eye view of the book and you can't see the person reading, which is difficult if you can't see, you know, facial expressions? Like, they have a lot of information in that, and I would love to include a lot of that in this talk today, but unfortunately we don't have time. So I recommend you go and see that if you're interested in that. It's a really, really good talk. Okay, next is YouTube. YouTube I have mixed feelings about because there's a lot of good stuff on there, but there's also a lot of like stuff to wade through. So I'm just going to mention a couple of pages that I really, really like. There's some different categories of things that are good. The first one is pages by the authors themselves. My favorite one is Emily Gravett, who wrote The Odd Egg and books like that. She has videos of her reading, but she also has another video after that where it's of her drawing characters from the book or making a craft, and they're really, really good for after reading activities. So that's one that's definitely worth checking out. A lot of publishers have pages as well, and they've been putting a lot more online since the COVID pandemic as well. One I really, really like is from Scholastic, and their Weston Woods created an animated clip from the Dot, which I think is quite a well-known picture book. It's not the whole book, but it's, you know, a little part of it, which might be a good introduction if you're going to be reading the book in the classroom. And then also my most favorite, The Very Hungry Caterpillar. So there's a British animation studio that has animated the entire thing. They have the English version, but they also have the Japanese version online. And so this is really, really just a fun thing for kids to watch. So I really recommend checking that out. And then I just found this one recently, Story Time from Space. Astronauts reading picture books about space in space. They actually have one of the Japanese astronauts reading a Japanese translation of one of the picture books as well. So that's, if you want a Japanese one, it's also on there. But these are the kind of ways that you can use technology to make books a little bit more exciting, or, you know, just something different, something to, you know, make it a little bit new. Okay. Thanks, video conferencing. I think everyone knows Zoom, Google Meet, all these kind of things. The main reason I would say to use video conferencing is for guest speakers. If you want a parent or a friend, you know, the authors, if you can have connections, one of the best things about video conferencing is being able to get people into your classroom that you wouldn't usually. And I think this pandemic has been an opportunity that to get a lot of these people to come in that we wouldn't normally. Sorry. And lastly, creating your own resources. Now, I think I left this for last because I think this is the biggest thing and most difficult. If I've done this because, like I said, if I'm wearing a mask in the classroom, students are not going to be able to see your mouth shape. They're not going to be able to see your facial expressions so well. So sometimes I just want to take a video to show them what it would actually look like, or, you know, to send it home with from homework. But if you work at a strict school or a school that cares a lot about image, there's one thing that's really important, which is copyright. So I know some people don't really care so much if you're not being very public with how you're sharing things. It might not matter, but, you know, copyright, it is a big deal for a lot of places. So I just thought I'd mention it. Can teachers read out books online and make videos? So the answer is yes, they can, but there's a lot of only if they do this. So for example, if we're looking in America, it's covered under fair use. If it's in a closed space, such as Google Classroom, if you post it on YouTube, it can't be accessible to the public, so it has to be like unlisted. You have to often remove it after a certain time. Many publishers have specific conditions. I think a lot of the conditions that they came up with, the conditions that they came up with during COVID have finished now, but there's still a lot of like this one, Two Hoots Publishing, say that you can use any of these without any conditions, but yeah, they have to remove them after a certain time, and you might need to email them to let them know what you're using them for. So that's America. What about Japan specifically? So I found the Japanese law, it's very long. Long story short, if you work in a school that's not for profit, so if it's not for commercial purposes, then you're fine if you're using it in class and you're not taking away from, like, if you would be buying a copy of the book and instead of buying a copy of the book you're using a video, then that's not allowed. But if you're not replacing money that the author would be getting, then it's fine. If you're working in a school that is for profit, unfortunately it's not allowed, but this is just the Japanese laws. There are some publishers that allow it anyway. Like I said, the Two Hoots publisher for this one is fine, but there's a list from the school library journal. I think a lot of it is finished, but just check with those or check with the publishers themselves. So if you are going to make a video, last couple things, take care of your space, what students can see around you. This works for if you're not making a video as well, if you're in your classroom. What's around you in the background? How's your lighting? What's the distractions? How close are you to the camera? Okay, how can you improve the experience? What things can you do yourself? Little things. Show your face. If you're making a video, make sure to show your face. Make eye contact with the camera. I have a real tough time doing this. I think most people have noticed I've not been looking at the camera this whole time. I apologize. Change your voice in tone and interaction. If you're making a video, leave pauses, leave thinking time, and practice. The worst thing is getting to a part in the story and you're like, oh wait, that happened? I forgot about that. But most important, do your search. Like I said, look up questions you could ask, tasks you could do afterwards. If you're looking at the book itself, how do you pick? What do you think? Do you yourself love it? If you don't like the book, your students are not going to like the book. So you have to like the book. How does it look on screen? Is it kind of shiny? Is it hard to see? How does it look in person? Is there difficult reflections? Like, you need to check that out. How big are the pictures? How simple are they? Can the kids understand the majority of the story just from the pictures? Can the students really clearly see? And then I think lastly, the audience. How can the students get the most out? How can you encourage them to be involved? So give them time. If you're taking a video, that means pausing after you ask questions. Repeating. If you repeat it multiple times, even though there's no audience there when you're making a video, then students, when they're watching, will want to repeat. Gesture. It's a bit difficult when there's no one there, but you should do. And intonation helps as well. So sorry I ran through that last part. If you have any questions, that's my email. I'll just show some of my references just so you can see. These are all the websites I've been looking at. We'll try and upload the PDF of this on the Edzilla website. I've been trying to compress it and it hasn't been working for me. So I will try and do this later if anybody wants to see the slides, or you can email me. If I go back, you can email me and I will send you the presentation itself. And then lastly, the resources I mentioned are all here. The PDF for this is up on the website already. So if you want to see that, it's there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's offer a round of applause for Ms. Emily MacFarlane.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your presentation today, and thank you all for coming. Please connect with our associate members who support this conference and SIGs through both the conference site and Discord server. Again, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.